What is going on, Life Fitness Coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives Make Money on the Trainer podcast. It's your boy, B Mark, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about 7 content rules that I follow that gained me 200,000 followers on Instagram. Now, before I get into today's podcast, I want to share a mindset shift with you guys. So this morning, I actually realized yesterday, I told Kirsten, I was like, I feel like I need to work on my discipline a lot more. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I've been sleeping in more often than I have like in a long time. And she's like, okay. So I was like, I need to work on like the practice of getting out of bed and doing the fucking shit that I need to do without thinking about it. Cause like, guys, even for me, like somebody that I would consider myself on top of my game, there are times where I slip into complacency. And recently I caught myself making more excuses than not for like sleeping in and doing a little bit of like kind of quote unquote catching up with rest with my body. So today I made the decision I was like, I just decided, I was like, I'm just going to be more disciplined today. And so that meant getting out of bed when my alarm went off, which was really fucking hard because my brain was telling me to go back to bed. That also meant sitting down and doing this podcast right now for you guys. And literally right before the podcast, I could hear the back of my mind just like making excuses for why I didn't need to podcast right now and why I didn't need to show up right now and why I could put it off till later. But fuck that. I'm practicing discipline. So at any point in time, you can make the decision to flip the switch in your mind and just not listen to the voice, the little bitch voice in the back of your head that like tells you to take time off. So let's get right into the podcast. I don't want to waste any of your guys' time. I've had this Instagram account now for 2.5 years. And in the last 2.5 years, I've gained 209,000 followers, went from 0 to 209K. So I'm going to tell you guys the 7 content rules that I follow that gave me 200,000 followers on Instagram. And any one of these can be applicable to you and any one of these are going to be valuable for you. So let's get into it. Rule number 1. I do 50% of my content for exposure and 50% of my content for conversion. So what does this mean? Content for exposure is content that I know that's going to be widely relatable to a bigger audience. Content for conversion is content that I know that's going to be highly valuable for online fitness coaches. And so content for exposure is going to be content that's like me and Kirsten talking about our relationship. Content for exposure is also me talking about 4 words to never say in marketing. Because marketing as itself is like a blanket statement that applies to a wider audience. So that's designed to get exposure in general. Another example of content for exposure would be 5 Instagram reel tools that will help you go viral. Because anybody that's creating content at all, period, is going to get value from a reel that says 5 Instagram reel tools. But then, so that's content for exposure. That's 50% of my strategy. The other 50% of my strategy is content for conversion. So content for conversion is if you're on a sales call and your fitness client tells you they need to start till next week, here's what you say. So content for conversion is more niche and it's where I'm actually talking specifically to the avatar and the demographic that I'd like to talk to. So there's 2 types of content that I post. 50% of my content is content for exposure. 50% of my content is content for conversion. Now for content for conversion, I've got some rules that I follow with that, but I'll tell you with content for exposure, for the content that I use with exposure, this is like I research viral topics and then I recreate them. So I figure out what's already trending in marketing, in content, in sales in general. I figure out what's already trending and I just recreate those videos because the Instagram algorithm has already told me this is a viral concept. So I'm just going to take it and make it my own and recreate it. And then content for conversion is it's much more specific. And so it's using the information that I have to help the specific niche that I'm helping and giving them practical tools to help them out. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is I use negative hooks 80% of the time. A really simple example of how to use a negative hook instead of a positive hook is let's say you're writing a video that's like 5 tips to help you lose weight. A better hook for that video would be 5 mistakes you're making on your weight loss journey. Like time and time again, I would tell you, I can't even tell you guys like what the numbers say exactly, but I know for a fact that when I post videos that are 5 mistakes that you're making in your weight loss journey versus 5 tips to help you lose weight, the 5 mistakes video outperforms the 5 tips video by like 100 times. It's ridiculous. And it's just because negativity draws on people's attention. Now, a lot of coaches are afraid to use this marketing strategy because they say to themselves, like, I don't want to be negative. And I'm not negative in my content, but I am going to use a negative hook because I know it's going to be more polarizing and it's going to draw in my audience members. Then when my audience members are there, that is when I will give them the actual value. So I'll be like, stop sounding like a dumbass on your sales calls. If you want to close more clients, here's what to do instead. So I'm like coming at them like with a little bit of negativity, and then I introduce positivity almost instantly. So rule number 2 is negative hooks 80% of the time. For the other 20% of the hooks that I use extremely positive hooks. As an example, the title of this podcast is 7 Content Rules I Follow That Gave Me 200,000 Followers on Instagram. So that's a great hook, right? Because you guys are like, how this motherfucker gained 200,000 followers? I'm telling you guys, a really shitty name for this video would be 7 Content Rules I Follow, because people would be like, okay, that sounds boring. But if I'm like 7 Content Rules I Follow That Gave Me 200,000 followers on Instagram, that sounds enticing. And so an example for you would be like 5 secrets for weight loss. You could say that, or you could say 5 secrets for weight loss that helped my client John lose 100 pounds in 60 days. Obviously, 100 pounds in 60 days is fucking intense, but you get the idea. Helped him lose 100 pounds in 12 months. So being more exaggerated with the positivity in your hooks is the other 20%. Rule number 3, I remove all filler words from scripts. Basically, what that means is never say the same thing twice. Oftentimes when online coaches are writing their scripts for their Instagram reels, they'll write it out and then they'll say the same thing twice. So it'll be like 5 mistakes you're making on your weight loss journey. A lot of people really struggle because they don't know what calories to eat, how many calories to consume to lose weight. And so they don't understand a calorie deficit. And you need to be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight. Otherwise, you won't lose weight. So a lot of people will like say the same thing twice without even meaning to in their script. So what I encourage you to do is once you write your script, give it a once over and like read it over and then take out any sentences that don't need to be there while you can still explain the fucking video itself. So for this, it's like, stop over explaining a simple concept. Like give the audience exactly what they need and then take out any unnecessary filler words, because as soon as somebody scrolls away, and they will scroll away if you say the same thing twice, that ruins your watch time in your videos. And if your watch time goes down, your videos aren't going to perform as well, which means they're not going to get shown in the algorithm. Rule number 4, every 1.5 to 3 seconds, there has to be a scene change, a jump cut, or some sort of movement on screen. And so every 1.5 to 3 seconds, my videographers are instructed to be like moving around, right? So like always be moving the camera. If you guys also watch my videos, there's a lot of like face tracking. There's also a lot of like jump cuts and slow zooms. And that's every 1.5 to 3 seconds. There's got to be a scene change, a jump cut, or some sort of movement on screen. The reason is people have very short attention spans. And so if they're just watching you talking to a fucking video and there's no jump cuts, slow zooms, face tracking, there's no movement, like you're not changing the scene in which you're filming every 1.5 to 3 seconds, people are going to get bored. And if people are bored, they're going to scroll away. And if they scroll away, it's going to ruin your watch time and your content won't get shown in the algorithm. And so my rule is that every 1.5 to 3 seconds, there's some sort of like scene change, jump cut, or some sort of movement on screen so that I can constantly capture people's attention. Rule number 5, and this one seems super simple, but a lot of people don't do it. I always end with a CTA, every single video. It's save this video, follow for more value. Leave a comment below if this was valuable. Follow for more value. At the end of every video, I don't make it long and drawn out, but at the end of every video, I always say follow for more value. And the reason I do that is because you literally never know which video is going to go viral. You never know. And, you know, sometimes the videos that go viral are not the ones that I was expecting. I'm like, oh, I was like, and wasn't expecting that. And if there's not a follow for more value or like a follow me, like for like whatever CTA on that, if that video gets 1 million views and it doesn't say follow for more value, the amount of followers that you get will be significantly less than if it does say follow for more value. So I try to say it's like a CTA at the end of every video, and I try to make it like 1 to 2 seconds max. So try to like sneak it in there so that people don't scroll away as I'm doing the CTA. But rule number 5 is always end at the CTA. Now, not every video of mine ends with a CTA. However, every caption, if it doesn't have it in the video, it has it in the caption. If you guys read my captions, you'll read it and it'll say like, leave a comment below if this is valuable. Save this video, you're going to need it. So if it's not in the video itself, then it's definitely in the caption, but I always end with the CTA. Rule number 6 that I follow is I batch write my scripts to get in flow once a week. So once a week, I sit down for about an hour to 2 hours and I just batch write all of my content scripts for the week. In that time frame, if I don't have enough ideas in my head, I will go to Instagram and I'll research trending topics. I'll just type in keywords related to my niche. Like you could type in fat loss, men's fat loss, women's fat loss, tone tummy, 6-pack, get a 6-pack, lose weight. Like search up the keywords, and then you want to go through some of the videos that are already performing well and get some of those video ideas. Then you can start recreating those video ideas. But I do that once a week for like 1 to 2 hours. Now, I usually write all of my scripts all at the same time. And the reason I prefer to do it that way is because that way I get into flow. And once I'm in flow, it's really easy for me to write scripts. So rule number 6 is I batch write my scripts to get in flow once a week. Rule number 7 is I batch film my content once a week. And with rule number 6 and rule number 7, it's important that you actually schedule it into your calendar. A lot of people just like treat content like it's a hobby. But if you want to grow a successful business, you need to treat content like it's like a fucking commitment. And so twice a week, one of the times is batching and one of the times is filming. I will batch film my content. And during that batch filming session, the way that I like to film is I'll have my scripts with me, and then I'll just like say a line and then I'll read the next line. Then I'll say a line and then I'll read the next line. Then I'll say a line and I'll read the next line. And then that's how I get all my content done. And like this process, since I started doing this process, like that's when my Instagram account started growing. When I started batch recording, batch writing, batch scripting, everything. I used to be the type of guy that would do a new video every day and I would just film the new video every day. It was overwhelming. It was exhausting. The content wasn't performing as well. I didn't feel really good about the content. Once I started batch filming and batch recording, everything changed in my business and everything changed in my content. All right. So again, those are the 7 content rules that I follow that gave me 200,000 followers on Instagram. 50% of my content is designed for exposure. 50% is for conversion. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is I have negative hooks 80% of the time, using words like stop, steal, don't, avoid, and mistake in my hooks. Rule number 3 is I remove all filler words from scripts, which basically means I don't say the same thing twice. Rule number 4 is every 1.5 to 3 seconds, there has to be some sort of scene change, jump cut, or some sort of movement on screen. Rule number 5 is I always end with a CTA. If it's not in the video itself, then it's definitely in the caption. Rule number 6 is I batch write my scripts to get in flow 1 time per week. And rule number 7 is I batch film my content once a week. And that is it. That is all. Hopefully you guys got value from this podcast episode. I hope you guys have the best day of your entire life. If you did get value and you want to learn more about my coaching program, send me a DM on Instagram that says 10K and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help. Peace, love, protein. Have the best day of your entire life. And I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Let's go. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully you got some value. If you did, and you want to learn more about how me and my team can help you scale your online fitness business to $10,000 a month, DM me 10K on Instagram at TheRealBrianMark for more information, and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help you grow an online coaching business.